Her name is Danielle. She, as I mentioned to you before, went away for school. She also went to St. Mary's. She went to school just up the street here as far as elementary school is concerned to Del Norte. It's just up the street behind the 7-Eleven now, I think is what it is. And she's currently a high school teacher at Hanks. She's playing hooky today to come and hang out with us. All right, so she's ditching very much like we never do here. Right? We never do that, so she's not doing that. So with that, I'll be quiet and I'll pass the floor on off to her.
Good morning. Like your professor said, my name is Danielle Rivero. Was born and raised here in El Paso. I did go to Del Norte Elementary, and then I was off to Desert View Middle, and then I went to Hanks High School, where I now teach at, which is kind of weird. So I've been here pretty much my entire life up until I went to college. Yeah, I went to college out in St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas. I left in 2004, which was a long time ago, 10 years ago. And I went to college because, well, I was kind of a nerd and it was my job. It was really weird. I love school, hence being a teacher. So I just knew it was never an option. I just knew I was going. I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be quite honest with you. Since I was probably about 5 years old, I wanted to be a veterinarian my entire life. I love animals, obsessed with them, so I figured, let's work with them. Well, when I got to St. Mary's my freshman year, I took a biology course, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it, which is weird because I love science. My forte is science and English, and I couldn't stand it, and especially the lab portion. It lasted 4 hours a day, and I went home and I told my mom, I said, I don't think I can do this. This is not me. This is not what I like. So after my first semester, I decided to transfer my major over to English literature, where I stayed the rest of the time. Okay, but while I was there, I learned a lot about myself, things that I had never known before. One was how independent I was. My mom had always told me, you're extremely independent, you've always been independent, out of my kids, you're the one that I'm not worried about. But when I got there, it was crazy how I felt by myself. Even though I had friends and my cousin was actually there, we went in together, but I felt alone. I was with a roommate I had never met before. Nobody was there to tell you, do your homework, finish your homework, what did you do today? Your mom always gets home and how was school? And you're like, whatever, mom, it was fine. Like, you don't even want to talk about it. I actually missed that stuff. I was like, where is somebody to ask me what I did today? So that was crazy, learning how to function by myself. Things like going to get my oil changed. My dad always did that, okay? I didn't know what to do, so I had to do that. Things like the washing machine and dryer were not in the dorm. You had to go to the washroom, so it was like carrying the bags and carrying your waste baskets and everything over there. That was, insane. Oh, and then they take quarters. I think by now, though, you might have debit. They might be able to take your debit. But back then, it was only quarters, so I had to go to the bank and get quarters, and I had to do all these things, to pretty much function. So independence was one of the best things that I learned. And whenever I would come back to town, my mom would want to do everything for me. She would want to wash my clothes, and she would want to do this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, stop. I was so used to doing it by myself, and I was like, that can't go in the dryer, and that can't go in the wash, and this, so I learned at least how to be alone and be okay with it. School-wise, that was a rude awakening, okay? High school, when you were in high school, you probably thought, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, and they give me so much work, and I don't know how I'm ever gonna finish this. Cake compared to what you get at the university level. I was like, I would kill to have the workload back then. When I went into St. Mary's, they made us take a course called ND 101, and it was for pretty much an informative course about everything that the college had to offer. And I thought, why are we wasting our time doing this stuff? Because they were showing us where the library was, where the tutoring centers were, how to make copies, to print things, all this stuff. And I'm thinking, why are they doing this? Then they did this time management class where they literally broke it down and gave us a graph paper and told us, this is how much time you need to spend on your homework. This is how much time you need to spend for this class and this class and this class. And I thought, these people are crazy. There's no way that this will work. There's no way. That's too much. Nope. They were right. I was wrong. You literally had to spend that much time per course a day in order to keep up. Because the minute you fell behind, forget it. You were going to be pulling an awful amount of all-nighters. And I don't know about you guys, but I like my sleep. So there was no way I was staying up all night. So I literally had to learn how to cater my time, how to make sure that I gave enough time for each individual course without completely eliminating my social life. Because believe it or not, y'all need to function as a normal, young adult. You need to have friends. You need to meet people. There's no way you can go to school, sit in your dorm, do your work, and never talk to anybody else. You would probably be so lonely and want to die. So you actually have to learn, how can I get all my work done and then go talk to someone? Believe it or not, you end up taking your work with you, not literally, but you go meet friends, and the friends that you start meeting are the people that are in your classes. And then you're out hanging out at the mall, and all you're doing is talking about school. So guess what? And then this professor said this, and this is what I did. And so, but it was that venting, that little coping, because like I said, mom's not there to say, how was your day anymore. So you had to learn who to go to. As far as my experience at St. Mary's, I wouldn't change it for the world. I loved it. I loved going away for college. It taught me so much about myself. It taught me how to actually appreciate El Paso. How many of you in here hate El Paso and you want to get away from here and never want to look back? Is there anybody in here who feels like that? No, you guys actually like it? Wow. When I was your age, I was like, get me out of here. I never want to come back again. I hate this place. It has nothing to offer me. Nothing. Right? I went over there, and trust me, San Antonio is awesome. I'm not dogging on San Antonio. Love San Antonio. But I learned that this place was a beautiful place. It was something that I had never thought of before, because I was always here. It was nothing new. But I learned that I really learned how to appreciate food, because even though San Antonio claims to be Mexican, it's really Tex-Mex. Okay, they don't have the food we have here, not at all. Actually, lost weight when I went over there. Okay, the freeways are insane. I never knew You think this traffic is bad? Times it times 4, because there's 4 or 5 different freeways there. Okay. So I was thinking, and I remember thinking man, when I first started learning how to drive at 16, can you imagine trying to get on these freeways? I was freaking out. I thought, wow, what if I had kids here? What if I got married and had kids, and my kids are going to have to drive these freeways at 16? I'm not okay with that. I like my little old town, and it's not little. El Paso's not little, but I like my little old town. I want to go back there. So I moved back because my family's here, which is the next thing that I want to get into about college. I have a very, very, very close family. We're kind of in each other's business all the time. We know everything about each other, and no matter how many times you tell your one cousin, don't tell anybody else, by the end of the day, you're getting phone calls from everybody, what happened? So I love that about my family. That's how we are. With my mom and my dad, we've always had a really good relationship, I'd like to say. I've always had a great relationship with my parents, but I never felt that it was, the best. I always saw them as mom and dad. I never saw them as a confidant or friend. When I left and became independent and became an adult, I came home and literally I learned how my parents, especially my mom, are actually, still my parents, but also my friends. My relationship with my parents grew so much over that course because I wasn't depending on them anymore and they didn't see me every day. So we learned to appreciate every single minute that we had together. So as an adult now looking back at it, there's some times where I'm like, man, I was such a little brat to my mom. I feel so horrible. But it was moving away to college that taught me that. It taught me that, you know, I was kind of a brat. I never saw it before. I just took it for granted. She was always there. And then coming back, realizing that she was right 100% of the time, and I was always wrong, I realized how much I really appreciated her, and how much I really appreciated my father. And now people think that it's weird that on the weekends when I have a weekend, they're like, "What did you do?" I went to go hang out with my parents. Well, like, what did you guys do? Well, we went to a restaurant and we were chilling and we were talking and we were having a good time. They're like, "You really hang out with your parents?" I'm like, yes. You don't find that awkward? No. As a matter of fact, I love hanging out with my dad. He's 10 times more fun than anybody I know. You know, and they're like, "But you're so young. Don't you have like friends your age?" Yeah, and all my friends hang out with me and my parents. And they call my parents mom and dad. And it's just the relationship that I built throughout the years because I left. As far as, you know, learning to appreciate and be grateful and not look at them as these tyrants who tell you what to do and how to do it and when to do it. Because that's how I felt when I lived here, that they always told me what to do. And when I went away, I realized that's why they told me what to do, because they made me the person I am today. I owe everything to them, and I know that now. Didn't know that back then. I just thought they were like full of cash and they would just give it to me whenever I wanted. Now I realize how much they really worked, because now I'm in the workforce, and I don't know how they put 3 kids through college. So it's pretty impressive on their part. Okay. Do you have anything that you want to ask that I didn't cover?
I don't think so. Unless there's, actually, we'll open up the floor to questions. Oh, yeah, specific challenges.
Specific challenge. Oh, okay.
Other issues that came up.
In school. Okay, specific challenges in school that I faced was definitely learning how to time manage, which I told you they gave us that little class. My first year, okay, I guess I'll go through years. My first year was homesickness. I was homesick, believe it or not. I think I called my mom after the first week, crying, and telling her I wanted to come home. Yep, yeah, you know. I think I did. I'm pretty sure it was after the first week. And my mom told me, you know, why don't you just finish out the semester? If you feel the exact same way at the end of December, we'll go pack you back up and we'll bring you back home. But at least you can have that semester and you don't lose out in any time, and you'll still get credits that'll transfer over. And because she was my mom, I thought she was right, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I was still very homesick, but I believed her, and I said, okay, I'll do it, you know. And I'm not one to back down from something. I hate giving up. So I decided, all right, I'll stay. By September, I went back to, I'm never going back to El Paso again. I loved it. I loved it. I fell in love with my professors. I fell in love with my friends. I fell in love with my campus. It did take me a while, though, to kind of get over, you know, the initial, I'm not at my, you know, aunt's house every Sunday like I normally would be, or I'm not doing this. That was my freshman year challenge, was the homesickness and the time management. Sophomore year, I think I felt pretty good, but junior year, when I started my practicum, because I was going to be a teacher as well, so I had to go to a middle school, an elementary school, and a high school to see which place I felt best in. It was harder to time manage that. I had to learn how to time manage again, because I was still like acting as a teacher, tutor, you know, student teacher, but I still had classes. So half the morning I was at other campuses, and then my afternoons I spent at my college campus going to school. So it was a little bit more of, you know, that stuff, that kind of time. And then my senior year, believe it or not, which has nothing to do with school, but it kind of does, I had my, I guess my first real hard breakup. So girls, because it happens. Gentlemen, it happens too, but I'm just assuming you don't cry as long as we do. I had a really hard breakup for, you know, he was my high school and college sweetheart. I thought I was gonna marry this guy. And when we broke up, it was my senior year. We broke up my senior year in college. And I had 1 year left, and I was devastated. I mean, and that was another thing. My emotional state plus finishing off my school year was tough. It was tough to, get over that and still have, oh, I have a paper due or I have this due and not think about that. So that was another challenge I faced. Yeah. Trial and error. I'll take questions.
Raise your hand. Give the guy with the boom mic a second to make his way over so that way he can hear your questions. Okay. Put that thing right in your face.
How was your time management card or sheet, or how did you time manage yourself?
At first, it was trial and error. Okay, they give you a sheet, and they literally told me that if you're taking a course that's 3 hours long, you know how the credits, then you should give an hour a night to that one course. If it was a course that was 2 hours long, it was an hour and a half. So you had to say, okay, I have these many classes. I need to make sure that this class gets an hour, this class gets an hour, this class gets an hour, this one gets an hour and a half, this one gets an hour and a half. So you had to kind of, say, okay, I know I don't go to this class on this day, so I can devote more time here, and you just kind of play with it. Again, I say trial and error because there are some classes that you guys probably excel at like nobody's business. Like me, it was English. I could do that like that. I didn't have to spend so much time on it. So I would, finish that, and I would have extra time to throw to some other class. And so, like I said, it's trial and error. Just remember, you do want to give yourself enough time for each class.
But did you have to jot it down?
Oh no, they don't. They don't ever ask you to turn things in unless they're gonna grade it.
Oh.
So no, you don't have to turn in your time card at all. No, that's all on you. Nobody's there trying to tell you how to do it. You just have to. That's the hard part. So you have to do it on your own. Anybody else?
Well, what do you learn that you can apply to any degree?
Okay. What did I learn that I could apply to any degree? Pretty much almost everything. In my realm, at least, is because it is reading and writing, and you have to read and write every day of your life. As far as every other class, there are little things that I learned, like I did take a computer course. So there were things that, I learned them in high school, but as time progresses, there are so many updates and there are new versions and all that. So by the time I got to college, there was a whole brand new, scheme that I had to learn. I learned, believe it or not, and you probably don't, I don't know if you guys do this anymore. I'd never done it before. I learned how to balance a checkbook in my math class. Do you guys even write checks anymore? I had never done that before. So I learned how to balance a checkbook. You could now probably do it online, but it's still the same thing. I did it on paper, but you guys could probably do it online. I'd never done that before. Like I said, my mom and dad did everything for me, and they were my sole source of income, so I never worried about that. And then, once I got out of school, because that's the whole point, they're hoping that once you graduate, you get your job. Well, guess what? My dad wasn't going to fly all the way to San Antonio to balance my checkbook. So I had to learn how to do that. So my math class actually taught me that, believe it or not. It was a lower math class because I was an English major. I didn't need to do Cal 2 or anything. But they told me they even asked me, what would you guys see beneficial? And a lot of us were like, money management, because when you're young, all you want to do is spend. You don't realize about the bills. So I learned that. That was practical.
And how did you achieve that money management and organization? How did you divide your money into what you were going to spend?
Good question. The first thing, okay, I'm not going to lie. My very first paycheck, not going to lie, I went out and I bought a brand new bag with the matching wallet and the clutch. And I mean, it was my very first paycheck ever, and I had never seen that much money in my life in my hand. So I went out and I bought my stuff. Okay, I did. I'm not gonna lie. But what I did first was I made sure that I had enough to cover my rent. So whenever I get my, my paycheck, the first thing I do is I pay my bills. So I pay my rent, I paid, electricity, gas, water, all that stuff. I paid all of that stuff. Then I had to take into consideration, okay, groceries, I gotta eat. So I set aside, some money. With it, me being by myself, I could survive off of $100, maybe $200, depending on how hungry I was and what kinds of food I was eating. So I would do, okay, $200 for that. And then I would say, okay, gas money, which back then, it's finally going down now, thank God. But gas money, I had to sit down and say, okay, how long does my full tank of gas last me? When will I need to fill up? And so then I'd do another like $50, $80 for that. Then whatever I had left, I had 2 jobs. Spend it all or spend it all and save some. Save some. Trust me, you need to save some. So I limited myself and I said, okay, this is how much I'm going to have for the month. That's just for me. That if I want to go buy a new outfit or if I want to go to the movies or go eat at the restaurants or go hang out with my friends or do whatever, that's how much I have for the month. And then the rest I would put into savings because you never know what will happen. So that's how I would manage.
And was it hard to decide on what you wanted the most?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes it was, especially because we were still young and we wanted to go out and look good and go dancing and whatnot. So sometimes it was hard to sit down and say, no, I don't need that. But after, I'd say, a couple of months, it was really easy for me to say, I really don't need that. It turned into a necessity versus something that I wanted. Do I really need it or do I just want it? And I would literally go shopping at the mall and look at like nice clothes and be like, okay, do I need it or do I just want it? And it turned out, most of the time it turned out I wanted it. So I said, okay, I don't need it, I'll just let it go. Okay, and so because I did that, I did this the very next year. For Christmas, after I'd spent an entire year working, I bought myself a brand new car. But I had gone through a whole year of, do I need it or do I want it? Do I need it or do I want it? And so that was my big purchase for myself. That was, hey, you did it, you're working, you've saved some money, bought yourself a car, and I still had my savings and I still had enough to go out and hang out with my friends as well.
So you had a job, just one job?
After I graduated, I started teaching.
And while you were studying, you didn't have?
I had work study, but I didn't see the paychecks because it went straight into my tuition. So I didn't get it. So when I got out, that's how come it was really hard for me because I was like, oh, it's mine. It's mine. I get it, so. Anybody else?
When you fell behind, if you fell behind, how did you try to catch up?
Good question. It's a good question. If I fell behind, how did I try to catch up? If I fell behind, there were a few times where, the playoffs had happened and the Spurs were winning and that's my team and, then football season and so there was times where I turned into, do I need it or do I want it? So my friends would say, hey, we're all going to go here. Do you want to go? Of course I wanted to go, but I also knew, did I finish my stuff? So there were times where I knew I would have to stay behind. So I would stay at home in my dorm and be by myself. I would actually turn off my phone. First, call your parents, because if you turn your phone off in college and you're away, your parents will kill you. First, I'd call my mom and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be working on this paper and my phone's going to be off. Don't worry, I'll call you when I'm done. And I would turn off my phone because, once the text messages start coming in and the rings and all that, you're like, woo. So I would turn it off and I'd stay in my room and I'd work 2-3 hours straight. No interruptions. Now, I like working in my own room. I know some people, especially even my students, are like, I get really distracted in my own room. Go to the library. The library has really cool little cubbies. Like you can sit in the table like in the general area, or you can actually go into a room. There's room for individuals where you close the door and you don't hear anything. They have bigger rooms for those group projects where the whole group can go in there and you're not disturbing everybody else. I would say do that. Anybody else?
Actually, I got a question. So, I know you've always been well motivated and never had any doubt that you wouldn't finish, but what do you think would have become of you if you didn't finish college?
Wow, that's a hard question. I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I never thought I wouldn't finish. If I didn't finish college, one of the other things, but then I would still have to go to school. One of the other things that I was really obsessed with and still am is cosmetology and getting my nails done, although they're awful right now. I probably would have liked to have done something like that. But then again, that's still going to school. If I didn't go to school at all, I'd probably wind up working for the Humane Society as some sort of, helper. Whatever they would pay. I don't even know what they'd pay you, but I'd probably do something like that.
So what you're getting at is it was never really an option.
No, not finishing school for me was never an option. As a matter of fact, my brothers hate me because I pride myself in that I had better grades than both of them. It was my challenge, and when my little brother graduated, I made a big joke, and my older brother will never let me forget, because I told him, I was like, oh, you didn't get magna cum laude, which is a really high honor roll in, college, and my big brother was like, it's not your graduation, be quiet, it's not your time to shine anymore. So I was like, oh, yeah, you're right, I guess you're right. No, but it was never an option for me. And as a matter of fact, as how dedicated and motivated I was about finishing my school, when I transferred over to my English degree, I also did education. Your very last semester as a teacher, undergraduate, you have to devote that entire semester to student teaching, so you actually don't take classes. So from January to May, I was literally at a high school acting as a teacher, I had a mentor, and I had to learn the rules of that school and how to make lesson plans, and it was like college all over again, but now in my job. And so I didn't go to school technically my last semester. Most people who go into the education realm, they say that it takes them 4.5 years to go to school, because you have to take your 4 years of your basics and then that last half year. I told my what is he called? I call them counselors, but they're not counselors anymore in college. Advisors, yes. See, I'm still in high school. I'm in high school mode. I went to my advisor and I said, there's no way I'm staying here another half semester. And he said, well, there's not enough. I said, give me the classes. And he said, that would mean you're taking 21 hours. I said, I don't care. Give me the classes. Like, I can do it. And he said, you're insane. And I said, yes, I am. And he asked me, he said, are you sure? I said, sir, not only will I pass them, but I will have a 4.0 at the end of the semester. And he said, are you sure? I said, want to make a bet? He bet me. We bet, we had a little Starbucks. It wasn't Starbucks, but a little Starbucks. He said, we'll do coffee. I said, all right. He bought me a coffee at the end of the semester. I was very motivated, guys. I'm a weirdo. I tell my kids that all the time. I'm weird, but I love school. To me, it's fun. If I could be a professional student, I'd do it. I would want to get every single major out there. I love it. I love learning. So that's probably what I would do.
What was your biggest motivation to stay in school and to accomplish so many things at one time?
My mom. My mom was my biggest motivation, because she told me how hard she had it when she was little. My mom is the youngest of 10 kids. Out of all 10, 3 graduated from high school, 2 graduated from college, my mom being one of them. She also told me that when she was young, she had to work. She started working when she was 16, and she'd been working every day since to provide, to get her stuff, she said she bought her own car. I didn't know that. I was like, wow, and you guys bought me that beat up old little car that I had, but I thought it was nice, She bought her own car. She did all this. So she always told me from day one, you need to go to school. You need to do this for you, because you are going to be the only one that, you know, you need to really worry about. So when you're done, it's all for you. And she was just so, you know, strung up in us going to college that I knew I wanted to do it as much for me, but it was really more for her. I didn't want to disappoint her. I couldn't imagine telling my mom, I'm not going to college. I think it would break her heart because of how much work she had put in. She's also a teacher, which means she's also a big nerd. So she always knew that we were, you know, we had to go. So my biggest motivation was to do that for her. And of course for my dad, but I mean now, you know, I think if they needed something, if they, you know, because my mom's retired now and all she does is whine about how she doesn't get as much money as she used to. If they needed something, I'd be the first one to say, here's, you know, whatever. One of the coolest things that I did when she did retire was my cousins and my brothers and I, we were all working at this point. We put in money and threw her a huge retirement party, surprise party. She had no idea. And I was able to do that for her, and it was one of the best things I could have done.
You consider going back to school?
Oh yes, that's my goal. I have a goal. I want to go get my master's. I would love to get my master's. I don't know if you want to say it again, huh?
Oh, ask the question.
Would you consider going back to school?
Would I consider going back to school? In a heartbeat. I would love it. And actually, I'm trying to figure out when to go because I don't have any children. I'm not married. It's just me. I have a dog. That's it. So it's just the two of us. So right now would be prime for me to go. So that's my job. And the reason I hadn't gone the last couple of years because I was coaching. I was a cheerleading coach for 3 years, which took up my entire life. So I didn't have time ever. So now this is my first year of teaching, no coaching, no nothing. So I plan on hopefully getting in next fall. And I would like to work on American literature.
She wants to be me when she grows up. That's what she wants.
No, my dog does not. He does like eating paper, though. I'll give you that. But no, I have my dog because I'm obsessed with dogs, and he's what I live for. If you were to ask me what I go to school for now, it'd be like Achilles. You know, I treat him like he's a child. This dog has health insurance, and he's insured in my car, and yeah, it's pretty pathetic. But yeah, that's what yeah.
What do you think is the biggest benefit about having a degree?
My job. At least for me, my job, I couldn't get into my job without my degree. But the biggest benefit of having the degree, and I would say this emotionally, it's just a goal. It was the first thing I ever felt really proud of. When I graduated from high school, I mean, like I said, you guys remember high school was kind of like, yeah, we're gonna do it. You knew you were gonna do it, but in college, there's always that chance that it won't happen. You see so many people who drop out. A lot of people at St. Mary's that I knew started working on the side because they were like, I have so much time. Like, I only have 5 classes a week, you know? Then they started working, and what happened is they started liking their paychecks. And they started seeing an income. And they were like, I can make more money, you know, working at Chili's and, you know, working at Ruth Chris or working here. I'll do that for a little while, save some money, and then I'll come back in a year, and they never went back. You know, so when I graduated from St. Mary's, I cried. Like, walking the stage, I was crying. And I didn't do that. I didn't feel the same, you know, emotion when I did in high school. You can ask him, I was crying the whole time. I cried. It was a very, like, it was something that was all mine, and I did it. My mom didn't remind me to do my homework. You know, my professors didn't yell at me if I didn't turn in my homework. My professors didn't yell at me if I didn't show up. Nobody called the courts and said, you know, you're truant. It was all me. I did it by myself, and it was, you know, the most rewarding feeling I've ever felt. But
Anyone else? Cool. Well, then thank you, Danny. Thank you.